Peter had partners, James and John. He had partners. So he had people that he was working with. And we know, the Bible tells us that, it was the end of the day for them. They was cleaning their nets. They were getting ready to go. Jesus asked to use the boat. He preached. And then he was like, hey, Peter, cast out your nets, plural. Cast out your nets for a great drop, right? At this time, they didn't know who Jesus was. At this time, they just met him, but they knew he said a good word. They knew that he was, he was some type of man of authority or whatnot. So they knew enough, not to buck back. They knew enough not to buck. So Peter was like, at your word, I'll do it. But what did he do? He threw out a net. He just did something. He didn't do his best. He just did something. Y'all see yourself? Y'all see yourself? Okay. And I was like, God, this is horrible because, see, in order to cast out nets, you need your partners. You have to work together. He got a draught. He did. He did. He didn't get the great draught because the net broke. And a lot was left. And then at the end, the partners ended up coming in scrambling, trying to get whatever they could. But it was so much loss. It was so much loss. And I was like, okay, God. Why you still put it in my face like that? Okay, cool. All right. So, glory be to God for second chances. Glory be to God for second chances. We move over to Matthew 21. Matthew 21, by this time, they've built a relationship with Jesus. They've been discipled. God has, called them, his apostles. They know the voice of God. They've gone through the ups and downs. They've experienced what can happen when you obey the word of God. They've gone through all of that. So they know God by now. They know Jesus Christ by now. And Jesus has already died. He's resurrected. And same people, Peter, James, John. I think somebody else was out there. I think Thomas might have been out there too. I don't remember. But I know those three for sure. That same pack was out there. Here comes Jesus walking along on the shore. And again, he tells them, cast out your net. He gives them instructions once again. But this time, they have an ear to hear. This time, the net doesn't break. This time, they're able to catch the fish. This time, they're able to get the full blessing that God has for them. And anybody that knows me knows I'm nerdy. I like numbers. I really do. I like numbers. I like to figure out what stuff means. So I'll go in and I'll be like, well, why did it say that they caught, I think it was 153. Why is it 153? So I went and I'm a little quiz, trying to look it up or whatnot, and end up finding out that was enough fish. Lord, please bring back the number. I think it was either 24 to 35 years. That was enough fish to support them for 24 to 35 years. Now, God, he blessed the ministry even more. He did. It grew even more. People gave more. It increased. But just that base right there. And it couldn't have been nobody but God that I was like, how long did Peter preach? Like after that, and I looked that up. And it said after that, after the resurrection of Jesus Christ, Peter ended up going on until he was crucified about 35 years. He had enough to sustain the ministry that God wanted him to have. God had already supplied all his needs right there at the base, but he had to have that ear to obey. He had to obey completely. He had to obey perfectly. He had to give his all. He couldn't just throw out something. That's right. He couldn't just do something. He had to do it with his whole heart. He had to be obedient. He had to have an ear to hear. That's right. Mm-hmm. He couldn't slide off the word of God. Because when you start to do something other than what God says, when you make something plural singular, you're going to lose. That's right. That's right. You're going to lose. Right. When you change anything in the word of God, you're going to suffer a loss. That's right. That's right. That's right. Now, Pastor just got finished talking about, catching fish, and that, he's talking about catching souls. That's the exact same thing. If God can't trust you with this task, you think he can trust you with his people? Do you think he can trust you with his people? We have to learn how to catch the souls as well, but that also calls for an ear to hear. You have to be willing to go out. Invite. Just do it. It don't matter what it looks like. It said one plants the seed, one waters. Who gonna get an increase? All right then. What you worried about? Just open your mouth. I'm sure we get out here and talk about a lot of nonsense anyway. Might as well talk about something that's productive. You might as well. So I'm just saying. Glory be to God.